Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of IK NHL Daily Talk. And unfortunately for me, Jakob is not here to join me today. So I guess yesterday you guys get a Jakob only video, and today it's me. But unfortunately, this video will only be on YouTube today, as obviously Jakob has the Spotify login, and he's the one who records those videos. So we aren't recording two videos on two different platforms on one device because that's quite strenuous on the electronics. But yeah, we've got a few news topics today, and then I got something fun that I just want to talk about, like a movie and whatnot that I watched the other day, and I thought it'd just be fun to talk about at the end of this episode. But anywho, obviously the games for today, unfortunately, are already well underway or done, so unfortunately I cannot make any NHL picks of the day today. So I apologize for that, but anywho, let's get on with this episode. And for our first news point of the day, we see defenseman Bronson Ride signed a 3-year entry-level deal with the Vegas Golden Knights, and honestly, I've seen that it kind of looks like I believe he was an undrafted prospect, which yes, he was undrafted, and he's a big guy. He was born in 2005, so he's 21 years old. He's a 6'7" defender, and he's 212 pounds. So it looks like they've clearly brought him in to play defensive role and be a big man. And I mean, he has 21 points in 57 games in the OHL as an assistant captain on the North Bay Battalion, but to be honest, I don't think the numbers paint the picture with this guy. And albeit, maybe not the most skilled defender out there, I do think that he could provide value to this Vegas team in the future. And for such a low risk signing, ultimately signing a guy out of juniors, I don't see an issue with it at all. And I mean, if you guys know anything about Bronson Ride, let me know. And I wish I could ask Jakob. And I know Jakob likes big players, and he likes to see what they can do and provide. So maybe I'll ask him about it tomorrow if I do remember. But if I don't, so be it. But unfortunately, we are moving in another direction now, as this was the only signing of the day. And man, the Panthers season continues to not go as planned, as I guess Sam Reinhart is dealing with more than one thing and will not travel with the Panthers on their coming road trip. And on top of that, I couldn't find an exact news article or what, but on Instagram through Puck Empire, I did see something that his estimated time out is going to be 4 weeks, which at this point in the year is pretty well the remainder of the season. And yeah, you do not love to see it. And I really do hope that, Sam Reinhart is not going to be gone for too long, as he is their leading scorer in both goals and points with 29 goals and 32 assists for 61 points on the season. But yeah, Sam Reinhart will not join the Florida Panthers on their upcoming road trip, according to coach Paul Maurice, and it's unclear how much time. But obviously, like I said, I seen an update, and I guess apparently, he scored the game-winning goal in the 2-1 win over the Columbus Blue Jackets just a couple days ago. But supposedly, he suffered another injury, and yeah, he'll be out for some time. And for the Panthers, who are chasing chasing the playoffs in that Eastern Conference, and it's real tight. Which actually, before the end of this episode, we will go over the standings, just because I want to give a quick update on those. But anywho, we will move on. But yeah, sucks for him in Florida. But on the brighter side of things, we have, Anze Kopitar, who broke the franchise record for the LA Kings for points. And he passes Marcel Dion with his 1,308th point. So Kopitar draws praise from Dion after breaking Kings points record, which technically this is news that's one day ahead, but he recorded, two assists, or sorry, two goals against the Devils on Saturday, which today is Saturday as of when I'm recording this. And yeah, it's very impressive, as you know, he did it in 1,505 games and passing the 1,307 points by Marcel Dion between the 75 and 87 season, which obviously it took Kopitar a little bit longer to reach that mark. But at the end of the day, they don't ask how, they ask how many. And yeah, apparently, ranking third through fifth in Kings and points list are Luc Robitaille, the team's president, with 11 or 1,154. Dave Taylor with 1,069, and then Wayne Gretzky with 918. As most of his career points were with the Oilers, then a large chunk of them came with the Kings too. Obviously, a few with the Blues, and then obviously he moved on to the Rangers to end his career. But amazing by the LA Kings forward, and yeah, I'm not surprised that he breaks this record. But speaking of the LA Kings, because we will start our NHL recap from yesterday. In our first matchup yesterday, the LA Kings win 3-2 over the New York Islanders, and obviously at this point, Kopitar was still closing in on Dion in Kings win against the Islanders as the captain scored to move within 1 point, and then he scored two more, and ultimately he took the franchise record, which congrats to Anze Kopitar again. But Heineman got 2 goals in the loss for the Islanders, and we'll move on to your scores. But obviously, like the Kings win 3-2, and they actually did outshoot the Islanders 27-23. But Trevor Moore opens the scoring unassisted just 3 minutes and 33 seconds into this game, and you know, with his eighth of the year, I mean, it's good for him. He's getting himself back on track a little bit, and obviously, it's not been the season he's wanted to have, but pretty much 10 goals. Wow, there were not even 10 goals in this game. Actually, there was barely 10 goals on the day yesterday. Never mind this game, but Anze Kopitar, just 10 minutes after the Trevor Moore goal, scores his also eighth of the season to make it 2-0 for the Kings, and that would be assisted by Mikey Anderson and Alex Turcotte. And Anderson's honestly an underrated, defensive defender, but moving on to, near the end of the first, which the Kings would score their final goal and what would stand as the game winner in this one. But that would come off of an Adrian Kempe goal where Artemi Panarin would get an assist, and that would be his 26th of the season. But moving into the second, where we only would see one goal at the halfway mark, where Emil Heineman would tip in a Adam Pelech shot, and that would also be assisted by Bo Horvat. And then into the third period, Emil Heineman with another deflection off of a Matt Schaefer shot this time would score, but unfortunately, it was not enough, and obviously the Islanders could not muster up a comeback in this one. But your 3 stars of the game, your first star of the night being Anze Kopitar with his 1 goal, and of course drawing within a point of Marcel Dion at this point. Emil Heineman was your second star with his 2 goals, which, I mean, not surprising considering he's the only player in this game who had 2 points, I believe. And then Trevor Moore with his opening goal was the third star in this one. And moving on to your goaltending performances, which, of course, for the LA Kings was Darcy Kemper, and that would see, him win this game with, 2 goals against on 23 shots for a .913 save percentage, which is not bad by any means. And then moving on to the New York Islanders, we see Ilya Sorokin play, and he would allow 3 on 27 for an .889 save percentage. And I apologize, I've left these tabs open, so give me one moment. And going back to the summary in this one, obviously, for our season series, which if I can find it, the LA Kings have officially won the season series as these two teams only faced off twice because it is an Eastern versus a Western team, as each teams will only go out, to that other conference once. So each matchup will, one team will get the home game. Well, oh my gosh, they both get a home game. But essentially, one team, will be at home in the first matchup, and then they'll be on the road the next. So each team gets a game at home, and each team gets a game on the road, if that makes any sense at all. But the LA Kings win the season series 2-0 over the New York Islanders as they won the first matchup on March 5th, 5-3, and just 8 days later they go, to New York to visit the Islanders, and they win 3-2, and they take this season series 3-2. But yeah, excellent game by, the LA Kings, and not good news for my Edmonton Oilers, as this team is, on our tail, and they're slowly closing in, and we do not love to see that. But I mean, it is what it is, but can't do much, and obviously they earned themselves these 2 points, and if you can only muster up 2 goals, most of the time that is not enough if you are the Islanders. So moving on to our next and final matchup on the day, which, man, I don't even know what to say about this one, but we see the Oilers go to St. Louis to visit the Blues, and they lose 3-2 in overtime. And honestly, the fact that we lost in overtime isn't even the part that upsets me. And fortunately, I missed this game, so I did not see the goals or how they happened. But yeah, seeing your team lose 3-2, does not inspire you. And especially not a team like the Blues who are pretty far down the standings, albeit season not over, but still does not look great for them. But Robert Thomas scores with 9 seconds left in OT, and the Blues rally from 2 down late to defeat the Oilers, which that is the part that upsets me. And apparently the Blues are 6-0-1 in their past 7 games, despite selling at the deadline. So we'll see what happens with them. But McDavid scores for Edmonton, which loses for second consecutive night, which that is true. But at least in this one we get a point. But the other thing is we outshot the Blues 38-25, which you need to score more goals if you are taking 38 shots. That is inexcusable. But we'll move on to your goal scorers as the Oilers opened the scoring with a Kasperi Kapanen goal. Just, you know, my apologies. With just over 4 minutes left in the second period, so over half the game. Oh man, I'm back with the yawning. I know Jakob would hit me with a so yeah, I don't know. It's late. It's been a long day, and of course, like I said, Jakob couldn't make it, so I'm here. But Kapanen, with his 7th of the season, opened the scoring for the Oilers with just over 4 minutes left on the clock in the second period, and that would be assisted by Draisaitl and Podkolzin. But moving into the third period, of course, we see Connor McDavid score to make it 2-0 with at the halfway point of the period. So 10 minutes left in the third period, and you would think this would be the dagger, especially as Matt Savoy and Connor Ingram also get assists on this one. But unfortunately for the Oilers, it was not the dagger, as Pius Suter with his 10th of the season would score at the 12:22 mark to make it 2-1. And at this point, it still didn't look good for the Blues, but Cam Fowler, with just his 2nd of the season, would score with 3:46 on the clock to make it 2-2, assisted by Oscar Sundqvist. And obviously, with a 2-2 tie, this game goes to overtime, and with just 9 seconds left in the overtime period, Robert Thomas would score his 16th of the season and would stand as your game winner, as it was the overtime winner. And Cam Fowler and Jordan Kyrou would get assists on both of the on that goal. Sorry, not both those goals, but your 3 stars in this one, which I know Jakob made a pun about, the 3 stars being stars because they were Dallas Stars yesterday. Ha 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 ha. But your 3 stars all got the Blues apparently this time, as your first star is Robert Thomas with his overtime winner. Your second star would be Joel Hofer, who had an excellent night, of course, having himself a .947 and a 1.85 goals against average. Oh my goodness. Okay, and then, of course, your third star of the game would be Cam Fowler with his goal and an assist. And yeah, I don't understand what's up. We outshot them. We won more faceoffs despite it, not being a lot of, I guess, like, not a large margin. We had more power plays, less penalty minutes, more hits, more block shots, less giveaways. I mean, less takeaways, but it was by 1. Like, in all aspects of the game, the Oilers dominated this one. But going on to the Edmonton goaltender performances, of course, we know that Hofer had an excellent night, but it was Ingram, of course, and he allowed 3 on 25 for an .880, which, to be honest, I can't even be that upset about. And for your season series on this one, as unfortunately this was these two teams' last matchup of the year, and unfortunately for my Oilers, the Blues win the season series 3-2 over, or 3-1 over, what? 3-2, brother, that was the score. 2-1 over the Oilers, as they would win the first matchup 3-2 on November 3rd, and then the Oilers would go, home, and the only home game they played against St. Louis, they won 5-0, and then, of course, the Oilers visiting the Blues just last night, they lost 3-2 in overtime, so the home team won every matchup in this one, and yeah, I mean, the Oilers are losing ground in that Pacific, and I'm getting worried, but honestly, at this rate, who knows? We might not even make the playoffs. But actually, we will move on to your standings real quick, just to give a quick standing update. But in the Atlantic, of course, you have the Buffalo Sabres, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Montreal Canadiens leading the way. And then in the Metro, you have the Carolina Hurricanes, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the New York Islanders, which Penguins and Islanders, as you told me at the beginning of the year that both these teams would be forces in that Metro, I would have thought you were delusional, but they're holding their own. And of course, your first wildcard team is the Boston Bruins, as Currently, they've played one less game than the Red Wings, so they have the current tiebreaker, but the tiebreaker is actually regulation overtime wins, which currently those two teams are tied. But, of course, the Red Wings are in that second wildcard spot as they have 80 points, and then the Blue Jackets are third, just a point back. Senators are fourth, just 5 points back of the Red Wings, and then, of course, the Flyers are six, along with the Caps, and then the Panthers are 11 points, so it looks bleak, but they have 2 games in hand over the Red Wings, and, this team doesn't go away, but I think the Devils, the Leafs, and the Rangers are all out of it, and I think that is pretty safe to say, to be honest. But moving on to your Western Conference standings, we see the Colorado Avalanche leading the Central Division, the Dallas Stars second place in the Central and second place in the league, and then the Minnesota Wild finished that three-headed monster. And I feel bad for the second and third place in the Central because one really good team is going to go out really early in the playoffs, and I think the NHL should do a 1 through 8 seeding for, each conference where it's like the first place team in that conference would play the 8th place team, second 7, third 6, and then 4 and 5 should play to make it more balanced. And then you reseed them after every matchup where the lowest matchup will always play the highest matchup. But ultimately, what can you do? But of course, in the Pacific, we see the Anaheim Ducks leading the way with 75 points. Then you got your Vegas Golden Knights, who, of course, are second with 74. And then my Edmonton Oilers are sitting third with 73. And then your wildcard teams, the Utah Mammoth, because they're part of that stacked Central Division, of course, have 74 points. And then the San Jose Sharks have 70 points and are manning that second spot. And the LA Kings are just behind them with 69. The Kraken are only 2 points back with 67. Same with the Preds, of course, so I wouldn't count them out either. Then the Winnipeg Jets are at 64, which I said they were out of it at one point, but I'm starting to change my mind about them. I think they still have a slight chance. Same with the Blues, too. But as for the Hawks, the Flames, and of course the Canucks, all their seasons are over. And that's putting it nicely, but yeah, we'll move on to your schedule for tomorrow, but that is an update on your standings, and, we'll see how they progress further, but, of course, oh my goodness, I have it on the wrong day, I apologize, but, of course, these were for today's games, and as of when I'm recording this, the 8 o'clock games are still ongoing, but every other game on the day is complete, but in your first matchup, we had the Anaheim Ducks visiting the Ottawa Senators, and that was at 11 a.m. Mountain Time and 1 p.m. Eastern Time, and that would see the Ville Husso up for the Anaheim Ducks and Linus Ullmark for the Ottawa Senators. And then moving on to the Boston Bruins versus the Washington Capitals at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We saw Jeremy Swayman for the Boston Bruins and Logan Thompson for the Washington Capitals. And moving on to the next matchup, which none of these matchups yet have been at the same time. We see the Colorado Avalanche go into Winnipeg at 2 p.m. Mountain Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And that would be Mackenzie Blackwood for, the Colorado Avalanche, and then Connor Hellebuck for the Jets, which I don't know why his rating is a 7. It might be his team score for this season, but he is not that bad. Then you got the Rangers and the Wild at 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that'll be 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's see, on number 3, folks. Keep count. And I'll try to keep count too, but Igor Shesterkin versus Philip Gustafsson for the Wild, and that's Shesterkin for the Rangers, of course. But then we have quite a few matchups at that 5 o'clock time, which we have 5 matchups at 5 o'clock Mountain Time and 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and I only say that time for the first matchup, which is this one, and the last one. But we see the LA Kings go into New Jersey, and for the Kings, you have Anton Forsberg, and for the Devils, you have Jake Allen, who has had a decent season in his own right. Then we have the Calgary Flames visiting the New York Islanders, and that would be Devin Cooley versus David Riddick. And Cooley's been good, and so has Riddick, so we will see what happens. Or, I guess I already know, but you guys will have to wait to find out till tomorrow, unless, of course, you go and look at the standings. But we will have a full recap for you guys waiting. But then we have the Toronto Maple Leafs going into Buffalo to visit the Sabres, and that team has been good. And, of course, they lost their last one, but they're still absolutely elite. And we see Joseph Woll for the Leafs and Alex Lyon for the Buffalo Sabres. But then we have, of course, the Carolina Hurricanes going into Tampa to play the Tampa Bay Lightning. And we see Frederik Andersen versus, I don't know why it says he's likely because that game has already happened. But I believe it was Andrei Vasilevsky. I will fact check that for you all real quick on my phone. Because, of course, I want to try to get as much right for you guys as possible rather than just being flat out wrong. I mean, I don't know. That just seems a bit absurd, but I don't know why they didn't update it. That's interesting. Okay, for the Lightning, it was indeed Andrei Vasilevsky. So there you have it. But of course, in our last matchup at that 5 o'clock Mountain Time, and that'll be 7 p.m. Eastern Time start, we see the Sharks play Alex Nedeljkovic, and for the Habs, it will be Jakub Dobeš. But moving on, of course, we have the Philadelphia Flyers hosting the Columbus Blue Jackets, and that game's at 5:30 Mountain Time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and that is Jet Greaves for the Blue Jackets versus Dan Vladar of the Philadelphia Flyers. And in your next matchup, we have the Detroit Red Wings visiting the Dallas Stars, and that game is at 6 p.m. Mountain Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Time, which is your only game at this time slot. And we see John Gibson for the Red Wings versus Jake Ottinger of the Dallas Stars. Now, for the two late games, actually 3 late games, but your first one is at 7 p.m. Mountain Time, and that'll be 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We see, the Pittsburgh Penguins go to visit the Utah Mammoth, which there is something that, needs to be spoken about in that game. And it was pretty unfortunate as, you do not love to see what happened, but of course, it is Stuart Skinner for the Penguins, which I miss Stuart Skinner. I like the guy. I don't know why Edmonton was so eager to get rid of him. But then, of course, for the Utah Mammoth, it is Karel Vejmelka. So that's all for 7 o'clock Mountain Time. And moving on to your 8 o'clock starts for 8 o'clock Mountain Time and 10 p.m. Eastern Time, we see the Seattle Kraken go to visit the Vancouver Canucks, and that is Philip Grubauer for the Kraken and Talipolo for the Vancouver Canucks. And then going on to the Blackhawks versus the Golden Knights, which is also at 8 o'clock Mountain Time and 10 p.m. Eastern Time. We see Spencer Knight for the Hawks and Aiden Hill for the Golden Knights. And, of course, I will start back from the top, and you guys can go ahead and take one more look at what the schedule is for today. And I will double check. I will make sure, if one of the games is close, I will make a prediction on the money line. But if none of the scores are close, I will not be able to. But the only 2 games I believe that would still be going on at this point would be the, Kraken versus the Canucks and the Golden Knights versus the Blackhawks. And unfortunately, neither game is close. So no picks of the day for y'all. But Jakob and I will definitely be with you guys for an earlier episode tomorrow, and we will have picks for you. But make sure to go give our Spotify a follow. I feel like we have not given this a huge shout out, but it's a podcast. It's IK NHL Daily Talk, just like this YouTube channel, and it's Jakob and Kyle, of course. And then, just as the description says, which I think we should modify a little bit, but talk around the NHL League with Jakob and Kyle, looking at scores and news around the league, which is correct. And, of course, there's only a minute and 23 seconds left because I was listening to, the podcast from yesterday, which I can't remember if Jakob made his picks, and you know what? We'll listen to it real quick.
Now we are going to do our picks of the day, which unfortunately I do not have Kyle's picks, as like I mentioned earlier, we were going to do it after I got done with class, and I am done with class, and unfortunately Kyle has not woken up or is not at his phone, so I couldn't ask for his picks of the day. But my pick of the day for today will I will take the New York Islanders to beat the Los Angeles Kings.
Which was wrong.
And I'm going to take we are going to see a Bush bomb today. And we are going to see Evan Bouchard score a goal today. So, real quick recap.
Which did not happen.
The New York Islanders will beat the Los Angeles.
Well, there you have it, folks. Jakob went 0 for 2. And I actually made picks of my own on a YouTube short, which, actually I will pull it up because, of course, we have our beautiful Instagram as well, which you guys should go check out. And I will scroll to the end of the reel, which, can I skip ahead? I don't know if I can.
On Maple Leaf star forward Austin Matthews last night. And unfortunately...
Here, I'll leave it muted for a sec. But, of course, this was a reel that I made. And I also posted this as a short regarding, the hit on Austin Matthews last night by Radko Gudas. And it was pretty rough, but... yeah, I hope Matthews will be okay, and hopefully it's a speed recovery for him. But we will cue past me back in.
Warranted, and you're taking a guy's season away from him who, obviously his team has not had the year that they wanted. And for the Leafs, it sucks. For Radko Gudas, it sucks. But maybe that was what he was trying to do. Maybe it was unintentional. I really don't have an answer for you. But yeah, that really sucks. And I hope that Matthews will have a speedy recovery. And Gudas, you should be ashamed of for what you've done. But since I missed the episode with Jakob today, my picks of the day are the Edmonton Oilers to beat the St. Louis Blues and a Jake Neighbors point.
Which, by the way, based off of that, I also went over 2. So there you have it, folks. And of course, I pulled up the dashboard for our channel, which actually I should pull up the channel on YouTube. But please, if you're watching at this point, please subscribe to us. It means the world to us. We appreciate all the feedback. We have 19 subscribers right now, so we're making some progress slowly. And yeah, it's not bad at all. But we're looking to make that a larger number here going ahead. So please, if you do enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. But on to my last topic of the day, which I'd like to talk about a movie that I watched recently. And it is an anime film called 100 Meters. And man, it was really good. And I don't know if that 7.6 rating out of 10 is, honestly enough, because it was that good. I think you could deem it as even like an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10 instead. But basically, gifted runner, Togashi dominates in the 100-meter races until transfer student Komiya arrives, motivating him to train harder, and years later they compete as rivals on the racetrack. And man, I would play the trailer, but I believe it is copyrighted. And oh my gosh, pause. Okay, well, yeah, but no, Togashi actually mentors Komiya in the beginning, and he helps Komiya get to the point where he gets to. And I believe that this movie, says a lot more about the world and life. And it's not just a movie about running, which obviously running's a big part of it, but it shows that if you find something that you're passionate about, that life can change in an instant. And for you guys, go find what you're passionate about and enjoy that. But obviously, this movie was very good, and I recommend giving it a watch. And I will talk about it later again on another podcast episode. But for today, I'm just going to leave it at that, because I will give you guys the opportunity to watch it prior to, spoiling the film. So, but for future reference, if you hear me talking about it again, that will be spoilers. So if you have not watched it yet, click off in later videos or whatever. Or I'll leave a spoiler disclaimer, of course, at the start of that. But we will close all the tabs and go, just to the NHL's page. And yeah, of course, all the games are still ongoing. You get a little peek at tomorrow's schedule at that top there, but that is what it is. But thank you all for watching this episode of NHL Daily Talk, which, of course, it is just the K, because it is just I, Kyle. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. And yeah, Jakob and I will be back with another episode tomorrow. And yeah, I'm getting out of here. Have a good night, y'all, and a great rest of your weekend and a great Sunday. So, peace out.